What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 64 of the FlipScreen Games Podcast, a weekly video game podcast where two best buds from different nations come together to discuss the wide world of video games. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. It's good to be back.
Welcome back. You missed out our FlipScreen special last week, all about Halloween. You sad about that?
I am sad about that. That's a fantastic name. And frankly, a missed opportunity. Next year, we got to get a FlipScreen logo made and we'll put it up.
Yeah, I know. I realized that. It should have been a pumpkin.
Yeah.
We should have carved the FlipScreen telly onto a pumpkin and had that as our logo for the month. We missed our chance, but FlipScreen next year, we missed our moment.
Only 365 days away, everybody.
Yeah. Count down the days.
So the thing I also noticed about last week's show, I somehow missed an Age of Mythology announcement, which is crazy because again, right? I feel like I'm the only person that cares about that game, and of course the news drops while I'm away. But whatever. The thing I thought was most funny though was as I was making the doc for this week's show, I saw that you changed the whole intro because it made absolutely no sense without me. Max and you from the same nation, right?
Yeah, it made no sense. Yeah, so I had to change it all. And obviously, my name's not Pete and Bessie, so that didn't work.
That was the whole thing too. Yeah.
That bit,
yeah. But the boys are back, right? The dynamic duo has been reunited. So thank God. You know, I'm sure Max was a fine facsimile.
Podcast I've done with you this week.
We
were already gutted that you got to have a really nice vacation and we were stuck here when it was thunder and lightning and shitty weather in the UK. And we're just there imagining you just sunning it up in Jamaica. So I hope you had a good time.
I got to say, Steve, I was you guys took it all, I guess, because it was raining back home in Philadelphia too. And we had no rain the entire trip until the day we left, which I couldn't take advantage of the sun anyway. So I was a lucky ducky when it came to that. So yeah, thank you. I did have a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Good, I'm glad.
But speaking of a lot of fun, wouldn't you know it, we got a PlayStation-centric episode on my week back here. God of War Ragnarok is coming out next week, and the pre-release review buzz is very positive. So I want to talk a little bit about that in our start screen. We got a premiere date for The Last of Us on HBO. PlayStation Plus subscriber numbers are down in a huge way, despite the fact of the revamping and the combination between that and PlayStation Now and all that good stuff.
Why is that?
Apparently people are going outside. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that.
Weird.
And then, of course, in our main topic, that's not all. PS VR2 has been revealed, both its price and its release date, and boy howdy, Steve is going to eat some crow on our predictions roundup in just a couple weeks here because
I'm going to be changing that while we're speaking to the correctly guess the price.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about that in our main topic. So we've got a lot here, but before we get into the show, let me remind you that this week's episode of the FlipScreen Games Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of November. They are, of course, Christian Account, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of the awesome content we're doing here at FlipScreen Games. If you want to become one of them, if you want to write into the show, if you want to come join our Discord, find our other YouTube channels, go watch us on Twitch, however you want to get involved, flipscreen.games, that's the website. Go check it out. However you do choose to get involved, we appreciate you tuning in for this week's show. So let's get into the start screen. As I said, God of War Ragnarok, if the buzz is to be believed, God of War Ragnarok may actually be better than God of War 2018. And my question is,
I would hope so, right?
Well, that's not always the case, though, right? And here's the thing. We'll talk about that. But my question is, can it be Game of the Year? And I think there's a lot pointing to maybe yes. And the thing you say, right? Of course, the hope is always that the sequel is going to be better than the original. And I think in many cases, the sequel is often better than the original, right? Because the nice thing, especially with games as they are today is that iterative process. You know, like you can learn from the mistakes of the first game. You learn from player feedback and what were the features that they were hoping for, what were the things that they didn't like, what were the things they responded to in ways you didn't expect. And you can take all those learnings plus the advancement of technology and hopefully make something that is bigger and better than the original. And I think you don't need to look any further than PlayStation's other big release this year, Horizon Forbidden West, for how that does not always translate to a higher review score. Because while I think most people would probably agree that Forbidden West on like a technical level, on a content level, right, is a better experience than the original Horizon Zero Dawn, maybe people don't necessarily agree about the story, or there's the novelty of that world for the first time, right, that has worn off because now you've played through a whole world of Horizon. You're familiar with the trappings of that world versus when it was a brand fresh new IP, right? And we saw how that impacted its Metacritic score and similar reviews, but a little bit lower. Same thing with The Last of Us Part 2, right? It was divisive in a way that the original was not. But with Ragnarok, very interesting thing has happened. As of this recording, right? And that's on November 3rd. It has a 94 on Metacritic, which is the exact same score as the Game of the Year award winner, God of War 2018. I've seen a number of critics, right, just giving their kind of spoiler-free thoughts, claiming that they think it's better than the original. And I think if it's better than the original, it's going to be a bona fide masterpiece. You know, I think the
maybe
popular
but,
opinion
it's going
is that
up against another bona fide masterpiece this year,
Elden Ring.
Yeah, 96 on Metacritic.
And that is the ultimate question: is can this game dethrone Elden Ring? And I think it can. I don't think it's a lock, right? Don't get me wrong. The cult of personality around Elden Ring is strong, you know, and the folks that love those games come out for them. You know, but I think God of War has a lot of things going in its favor, right? It being the end of this story that people loved so much, you got to imagine it's going to be pretty epic. And I think, you know, obviously the story of the original and the emotion that it was able to tap into was, I think, a big part of what made people resonate with it, alongside the fact that it just had really, really good, tight gameplay. And I think we can agree, Steve, right? Not everybody, but you and I can agree that Elden Ring does not have a good story. And the thing that the story of Elden Ring,
people that really like fingers and maybe feet are probably really into the story.
And my thing is, and I'll say this, right? Obviously, I'm not a fan of the Dark Souls, you know, brotherhood of games.
I thought you liked Railroads, though. George Railroads Martin. I thought you really were into him.
You know,
you said his story's not great.
I like Game of Thrones, but I liked parts of
the
it.
The new one's meant to be good, right? House of the Dragon.
That's what I've heard. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Top notch.
But I think the story of Elden Ring is more about the story you create by playing with it and interacting with the world.
Yes. And I think that's fine because I don't think story-driven games necessarily are a lock for Game of the Year. I don't think they're the only kind of game that can win.
You're right, but I think that if a game strikes an emotional chord, it has a leg up. That's a big advantage. And, you know, when you
depends
look...
what emotions, because I've definitely went through the whole like range, the whole roster of emotions when I was playing Elden Ring. It was like anger, sadness, because I was like terrible at the game and I didn't know what to do.
The joy of triumph.
Laughter at the terrible script and all about fingers. You know, there's emotions
I'm
to be
saying
had
though,
there.
right? What won, you know, in recent memory, a lot of the big winners have been games that have an emotional story, right? Last of Us Part 2 was a game of the year winner, right? I think God of War will have Elden Ring beat in that category. That said, I do think you're right that in terms of experiential gameplay, Elden Ring will probably have God of War licked. But I think it has a few other things going in its favor that Elden Ring just can't compete with, and it has nothing to do with the game's quality, right? God of War will have recency bias. It'll be the most recent big game that everybody voting has completed. I also think that it's a more accessible game, and it's a genre of game that is more broadly appealing. So while I bet there will be a number of people who vote that probably didn't play Elden Ring because they're not a Souls-like person, there probably are a greater number of people who will play God of War because it's the big story-driven AAA game PlayStation put out this fall.
Yeah, but isn't Elden Ring like a crazy hotness, sold ridiculous numbers of copies because it's on multiple platforms?
And that's
isn't
true.
that gonna be in its favor as well?
And
yes, this is the hot one for PlayStation, but I don't know. I think you're probably right. If there's one PlayStation game in the running this year, it's God of War. I think Horizon's lost its chance. It was up against Elden Ring, and I think I don't think
it might split the vote in a bad way, though. Because I bet you it's still nominated. Right. Now that you point that out.
And then people are like, oh, yeah, I really liked Horizon. I also like God of War.
But also, I don't know, that didn't fuck with Last of Us, right? Ghost of Tsushima didn't ding that armor, even though that game was also very popular. But I'm glad you brought that up. So as of August 2022, which is the last official update I think we've gotten on Elden Ring's sales, 16.6 million units. So pretty good. Pretty good. God of War, as of November 2022, so that's as of this month, it's got 23 million units. So more, but over a much longer period of time, right? God of War is out on 3 platforms, or available on 3 platforms, I'll say, between PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Steam now. And I guess Epic or whatever, PC. And it came out in 2018. So that's cumulatively over several years and a re-release kind of softly on PC that it was able to generate that. And I bet a lot of people bought it in the run up to the sequel. So Elden Ring, it's interesting because in a way it has the benefit of being a new IP, but it also, unlike an actually new IP, it also has that baked-in audience of people that fuck with Souls-like games. So, it has...
Yeah, but it brought in so many more than just, Soulsy people, because, I'd never played a Souls game before. I don't think you had really been into it.
But you wouldn't have played it if it weren't for the fact that it had a legacy beforehand. It's not like it came out of nowhere, is my point, right?
If this came out of nowhere, though, and it was, bam, 96, then, yeah, I would have played it. It wasn't it could have been any game out of nowhere that got a 96. Before Uncharted, Naughty Dog worked on,
Jak and Daxter.
Ratchet and Clank. Well, yeah, sorry, Jak and Daxter, Crash Bandicoot. It's it was a real big shift for them. That game did come out of nowhere, and that game's phenomenal, and it's obviously changed the course of the types of games that studio makes.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but my point is, I guess, that games that are part of an established franchise have an easier time building an audience. And even though Elden Ring isn't part of an established franchise, it has the same cachet in the way that, you can be like, oh, it's a new God of War. You can be like, oh, it's a new game from the Dark Souls people. That means something in the same way. And that's not to take away from Elden Ring's success. It's more to say that I think it probably will go on to sell more than God of War, even though God of War currently has more. But it's they're fairly analogous, right? In terms of, I think, general popularity. God of War is one of those near S tier franchise names in the way that only a few games are. God of War sells way better than most of Sony's other first party stuff. That isn't Spider-Man.
Isn't it strange to me?
It's legacy, though. You think about it. God of War was the hottest game the year it came out. And and that was 2005, I think, 2004. And that is defining game on the PS2, which is one of the most popular consoles of all time. So it's a game a ton of people played, and then that franchise continued to grow. And there was a time when video games were more like, like in the early 2000s, where there was that real like hyper masculine gamer bro fucking G Fuel type energy was like really baked into. You think about the Game Awards, they started on Spike TV, television for men.
Oh God, yeah.
Like that bullshit.
Yeah.
That was a thing, right? Like that high testosterone bullshit was a part of games, and Kratos was like the face of that shit.
I just really can't ever imagine Jeff Keighley being the face of that. Like, he's such a square. He does not fit
he's
that.
He's just a little nerdy guy, right? Like,
yeah, right. He's like total antithesis of like exactly everything you just said.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I mean, that's we could sit here and unpack that for a lot longer, but that's not what we talk about on this show. We're not here to talk about toxic masculinity in video games.
Jeff has great
2000s.
Jeff has great shoes though, like great sneakers every single time. Like he wears the suit. You look at the shoes, and you're like, "Whoa, yeah."
He's a well-dressed man.
What he's doing.
He's got his look together. I appreciate it. So point being, I think God of War Ragnarok obviously going to be something special. I think it has a very strong likelihood of being my game of the year, and I'm really bummed that you're not going to play it.
No, I'm not, because I've not played the first one.
You had such ample opportunity this year too. It's on Steam Deck. It's optimized. Like, you could have done it.
Yeah,
you played Days Gone instead.
Could have played it on the PS5 PlayStation Plus thing that apparently no one bought. So yeah, I could have, would have, should have. There was too many other new things that came out this year that I've checked out.
Killing me, man. You're killing me.
Played Elden Ring. I finished Horizon. What more do you want from me?
I want you to not play Elden Ring and play this, because I'm playing this. That's what I want.
Well, everyone wanted you to play Elden Ring and you didn't.
I played it. I just didn't like it enough to keep playing it.
God.
One day I'll start streaming it again or something.
No, you won't. Don't lie. Don't lie to the listeners and the viewers. No, you're not.
But you know what? Do you know if is Max playing God of War? I need somebody to talk to about this when this game comes out. You're going to be useless.
I'll talk to you about that off mic.
All right, we'll figure it out.
I think he is going to play it. Yeah.
All right. We'll have to. If not, I got to find somebody. Somebody's going to have to help me out here.
I can ask you questions about it, but you're gonna want someone to do like a spoiler cast with. We need to do a spoiler cast about Horizon.
I know, now that you finally finished it. I'll have to rewatch the story because I don't remember everything anymore.
Oh, God. But it was bad. I did not like it.
You're wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
We'll
Good
talk
talk.
about that another time. I do think, though, that you're right. I do think God of War stands a chance. And I think recency bias plays a massive part in it. I also think that it depends what we're considering as Game of the Year. If we're saying it's the Game Awards Game of the Year, I don't know. I kind of feel like Elden Ring was a lock up until at least this point. It was like all of the critics that vote within the Game Awards, I feel like that was their Game of the Year up until this point. And I think God of War's got a big hurdle to climb if it's gonna knock Elden Ring off the top. And it sounds like it might.
I've seen a couple people who I know vote in the Game Awards be like, this is my Game of the Year now. And Elden Ring's number 2. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the Game Awards when I say the Game of the Year, right? Like, that's, I feel like, obviously, a bunch of outlets are going to give Elden Ring Game of the Year. A bunch of outlets are going to give Ragnarok Game of the Year. That's whatever, right? We're going to name a Game of the Year. What does that mean? It's
yeah. Well, I mean, that is the Game of the Year as far as I'm concerned. But Gene Park had a great take on it. And for him, it's Elden Ring because he prefers gameplay over story. But if you're the other way around, he said that this is the game that's finally knocked The Witcher 3 out for the best side quests and the most that you've got to play the side quests.
See,
and I was just like,
I'm gonna like this game better. Like, this is definitely gonna be more my kind of game. And
I know.
And the thing is, I like the gameplay of God of War a lot. right? Like I think
Yeah,
that
and you got new weapons and new
like the original
skills and
again, I say the original, not I mean 2018, the
2018,
previous
yeah.
game. I'll just start saying 2018. I think that game plays so well. I think the Leviathan axe is one of the best weapons in any video game. And like it's funny to me because I mean like comparing the way that like God of War feels to like Elden Ring, I'm like, oh, I think God of War plays better too. Like I prefer the gameplay of that because it's
my god.
but hey, that's just me. That's just one
You know,
man's
I was
opinion.
with you. I hated Elden Ring. We did a whole episode about it, and then I did my U-turn on it, and I was just like, "This is the best game ever," and probably number one or number two for game of the year for me at the moment, and I can't decide. But I've also got a load of other games in my list. I've not played the new Monkey Island. That's on my list. I want to play what's it called? The Case of the Golden Idol, which is like a new game that's similar to like the Obra Dinn in style. I want to play that. The Entropy Center's just come out, which is like a new environmental puzzler, like Portal. Like there's so many indie games that I play. I'm playing Signalis at the moment, which is like really, really hot indie game.
So I remember we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and it's like I was like, man, I played a gross amount of games this year. Like, game of the year is going to be interesting, and you were like, well, a bunch of them are old though, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I played a lot of retro games this year, like to completion. But when I was going back over it, I still played a shitload of games that came out this year. Like my game of the year is going to be a pretty like
Yeah,
tense fight.
I'm gonna struggle as well. Like I started listing all mine together, and I think I'd played when I'd done it 15 new games, and now it's probably gonna be getting closer to like 20, and most of them were like really solid games that I enjoyed. Like Horizon's there. I think Horizon's in contention for a spot in my game of the year list. But you know, stuff like Kirby, Elden Ring, Stacklands, I think needs to go in there. It's one of my favorite games we played this year. There's
So
so much
yeah,
stuff. Stray,
it's funny because
Cult
of
of the
what a
Lamb.
soft year it was for a big portion of it. It was quiet, and then it's like so many things really came out in the back half. Like,
Yeah, you got a new Pokemon game coming out this month as well.
mm-hmm.
It's mental.
Dude, I'm
How are you gonna
like,
play both?
it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to play all these games for sure. But
Yeah, we can. Which you know, we're
no,
gonna have to accept the fact that one of us will play the game and represent it. Like I know you're not gonna play Monkey Island, for example.
no, I won't. I
Not
won't get
happen.
to that. Um, yeah, I mean, like God of War and Pokemon, I definitely need to complete. There's a couple other games I want to get hands on, but like there's a lot of games that I started and enjoyed and like fell off of, and I just don't think I'll get back to because I don't have the time, you know?
Yeah, me too. Like
Um,
was really enjoying Bear and Breakfast,
yeah.
and I fell off it because Roller Drome came out, and then another game came out, and another game
Oh
came
my
out,
god,
and it
like
was
yeah, like
just like
Roller Drome and
a
Cult of the
cycle,
Lamb I
right?
haven't finished. Like I'm very close to the end, but I haven't quite beaten them, and it's like I'm in a weird point now because it's like while I'm sure that content is worth playing because they're really great games that I loved, it's also like I kind of get it, you know, like and it's
Yeah,
like
you've played enough. Like you've played enough to review the game, I
yeah,
think.
and it's not to say that I'm like not interested in finishing them, but considering there's so much hot stuff I haven't gotten to, it's kind of like all right, like I do kind of want to like play more new stuff. Like, do I need to finish Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to be like to render how I feel about it? Probably not. And from what I've heard, the ending is kind of mixed reception, so it's
We
like
can refer to Chewy on
yeah.
Xenoblade.
He didn't even finish it, so you know I don't know. And it's like
I
some of
mean,
these
the man played two other Xenoblade games to completion this year. Give him a break.
and some of them
you
are
know?
games I know I'll get back to at some level, but like Xenoblade's one where it's like, man, I'm like not loving playing games on my Switch right now, and it's like, do I really?
No, isn't that crazy? Like, we went through years and years and years of that was the only place I wanted to play games. It was like, why is this indie game not on Switch? And
Yeah.
now it's just like, I just don't want to touch it because my Joy-Cons have started drifting again. And I know it's gonna not look its best, and I can play it elsewhere better. Like it's if it's an indie game, it might even come to Game Pass. Like Monkey Island's coming to Game Pass. It's crazy. It's crazy how the
Yeah.
like things have shifted and changed. And it really I think now we're at the point where Nintendo needs to do something. We need new hardware because otherwise they're gonna get left behind.
Well, until they put out something new.
Yeah, until they put out something new. But I don't want the only games that I'm playing on my Switch to be Nintendo games. I don't want to get back to that.
Yeah,
I
and
don't,
that's where
I
I'm at with it
enjoy
right
playing
now.
everything. Yeah,
Like, I
me
think
too.
really the only game that could get me to pick up my Switch right now is going to be Pokemon, and then like Breath of the Wild 2, right? Hopefully that's not on Switch, but
Tears of a Kingdom, Pete.
right,
God.
of course, Tears of the Kingdom. Apologies. But yeah, I'm through the roof excited for God of War. I mean, I was already excited for it, obviously. I was a big fan of the original. I'm obviously a Sony first party fan, but hearing how much people are vibing with it and how many people I've seen say like it's better than the original, which I think is like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. I'm like, that's what I'm looking for.
When's it out? Like, I feel like
on
usually
Wednesday.
reviews come. Oh yes, that's like a week ahead of time. Usually reviews seem to drop like a day before these days. So
I think it's because
nice
I think it's because they were confident that it was hot fire.
Yeah.
That's when they
it
drop
really
early,
is.
right? Like when they drop early, it's usually a game that fucking rules, and the publisher is confident that it rules, and they're like, "Yeah, tell people a week early," and they're like, "Oh, sweet, can I get this on Friday? Oh, I gotta wait till next week," and like it just builds the hype, like.
Well, this game leaked as well, didn't it? Corey Barlog was tweeting about it, about how someone broke the street date on it, so we got it early. Which it seems like someone from our community is getting
Sonic, yeah.
early. Yeah.
Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah.
We won't say their name because I don't want to, get them in trouble.
I don't want to fuck them up. But if I want to know what that's like. So if you're listening, I want to know what Sonic Frontiers is like. I want the early inside details.
Yeah, the day one patch,
Yeah.
All right. So let's move it along. We got a couple more things we got to get through here today. Next up is The Last of Us on HBO is coming out on January 15th, 2023, just a few short weeks away at this point. Gonna have to.
Are you really mad that that's like just outside of this year? Because you predicted it was dropping this year.
Yeah. I would have got a half point for that, and I would have gotten, and it would have played into my Metacritic prediction. But
well, if it's good, it might be hot garbage.
Come on, there's no way.
Yeah, you're probably right. Chernobyl was insane.
I'd be genuinely shocked if this wasn't good. And like obviously there's
Me too. Like it's written and directed by the creator of the Chernobyl miniseries, which was amazing. It's like based on a beloved video game franchise, which is also amazing.
The director's involved.
It looks like it probably should be pretty good.
To me,
the poster's not great though. Like I thought it was a pretty trash poster.
It's very plain, but whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like it has the same recipe for success for why like The Walking Dead was successful, right? Because it's like a really great property that you have the original creator come on and be involved and be an active voice in, and I think that always makes the difference between whether an adaptation really like.
Did that happen with The Witcher as well? Like, did they get the original book people
I don't know what the story is there, but they nailed that one too. God, man, I don't even want to talk about that right now. Henry Cavill's
weird, isn't it?
Ugh.
Very weird.
Terrible. Yeah. He's going to go be Superman, which is cool, but...
Have you heard the conspiracy theory as well, that people were like digging up all these interviews where he was talking about how he wanted to speak more if it was going to be based on like the books and things, and he would like agree to do the like 7 series run if it was more like the books and stuff, and people are thinking that they've changed direction. It's going to be more like the games and things rather than the actual books, which he is a fan of. So
maybe I think it's because
I think it's probably more he's Superman.
Yeah, it's because James Gunn is going to make a good Superman movie again? Now. That's not what we're here to talk about. Go listen to the comics, pals.
I liked the moving mustache though. That
was so the long and short of this is it got leaked about a week ago, and then we got the official confirmation where they actually dropped the poster and everything, and it's cool that this is imminent, because I really wasn't sure when we were going to see it, if it was going to be later next year. I was It's nice to kind of think that like it's around the corner and we're gonna get a taste of it sooner than later. I'm pretty excited about this one. You know, like it's certainly not something that I feel like we need, right? If you're a gamer, you've already experienced The Last of Us, and you know, I'm sure that you know.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would have done it in the Last of Us universe, but maybe they will for future seasons if that happens. But seeing other stories within that universe, and like, because obviously a lot was going on in the world. Like, what happened to all the people back in where they came from? When they broke out of the wall.
But I think the thing is, right, is like this is a chance for this story to connect with like a broader audience, like of people that are not going to play a 40 or 20 to 40 hour video game.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting to see how it lands, because I think it's probably going to be the most critically successful video game adaptation if I had to guess. Because I think it's going to be in that conversation of like good, solid prestige television. Because like HBO really doesn't miss like that. Most HBO shows are above average. So it's got all the recipe for success.
Any like big flops? They ever had any big flops at all?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I'm sure they exist, but I mean, there's a lot more hits than they invented prestige television,
Yeah.
So I think it's a recipe for success, but I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it and see how it turns out. And also, it's one of those things where like there's no stakes, because if it sucks, it's like, well, whatever. I'll just stop watching it, right? Like,
play the game,
Right. And it'll be an excuse for me to grab.
Maybe it'll be on sale.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I kind of want to grab part 1, but wait,
No, I'm waiting for that to come to PC. I really want to play that on Steam Deck.
Just stream it.
Yeah, I could do, but I can't then take it out of my house, Pete. It's like I'm stuck.
Like you're gonna go like, oh, what I really want to do is play The Last of Us on the bus. Like
I'm gonna play it at a party. I'm going to a party, and then just like,
party.
hey, look at The Last of Us. Yeah, rooftop party.
Of course. All right, so moving into our next talking point here, PlayStation Plus subscriber numbers are down by 2 million over the past year. Pretty crazy, and it's part of a larger financial like quarter result that Sony released. And there's a couple different pieces of information that came out of this, but this is kind of the one that's making headlines, because this is a year-over-year dip. This is the third quarter in a row that Sony has seen a drop in PlayStation Plus subscriber numbers. So that's, a trend at this point. And
the first quarter with the new PlayStation Plus revamp. Like, this
Right.
is the first time we've seen numbers from it, and down 2 million since then. It's pretty bad.
Pretty bad. There is some context that is worth pointing out, I think. So just to give you the actual hard numbers, PlayStation Plus had 4.5 million subscribers as of the end of September of this year, where they had 47.2 million as of last year. Now, the one thing is that, of course, as part of the revamp, there was the multi-tier system that was created, right? So anybody that moved up a tier is making PlayStation more money. So there's a chance that even if they're losing subscribers, they're not necessarily losing profitability, because there is that ability to make more money on a subscription now. And but
the base price went up as well, right? You couldn't get just like the base one.
No,
anymore.
The base one is the same price as the old cost. So the one thing is Sony hasn't given like a number of how many people opted into the higher price tiers, but they said that subscription revenue had improved by about 10%. So even though they were down 2 million subscribers, they made more money this year, 10% more about. So that does indicate that a pretty significant number of people did opt into a higher tier, and that even though they're losing subscribers, that it may actually be improving profitability to add the new tier system. So it's not good news, but it's not as bad as it sounds if you only look at that piece of information out of context. But it's still not what you want to see.
All of the PlayStation Now subscribers have gone. And you would have thought that they'd have shifted over to PS Plus if they were happy with the PlayStation Now service, and that we would have seen subscribers grow, because you may not have had PlayStation Plus, but you may have had PlayStation Now. That's obviously not been the case. People have just dropped off. And that may have been because there was a significant price increase if you went from PlayStation Now to one of the new PlayStation Plus tiers. It was a all-in-one package. You couldn't get streaming without the online functionality anymore. So there was a price increase in that regard. And like, I don't know if you've got the transcribed of the financial call.
I don't.
But someone asked Sony's CFO Hiroki Totoki why it was happening, and he said that it was declining third-party game and PlayStation 4 sales, and more people going outdoors.
Which I'm sure what he really means by that is like the boom that was seen during, you know, the early pandemic is tapering off, but that's such a funny, oh yeah, people are just going outside more these days. Less time for video games, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but he said, however, in the second quarter, we renewed our services, and there hasn't been a great momentum as a whole. So he's obviously not happy with how the new services happened. He said, therefore, in the future, we're going to have more penetration on PlayStation 5, and we're going to have very good titles. In addition, we're able to make better promotions, and we think we're able to recover. So he's saying that we'll get more PS5 games on the service, more people will be interested in subscribing for the service, therefore, more people will stay on board and will grow the subscriber numbers, as well as selling more consoles as well.
Oh, shit. Sorry, there's a spider on my wall. It scared the shit out of me. Give me a second. Okay.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. And now I unplugged my headphones. Sorry. That threw me for a second, everybody. If you were watching on YouTube, hopefully you got a laugh out of that at least. Apologies for you audio listeners. Anyway, I think while this is bad news for PlayStation, it's ultimately good news for us, because they're going to have to make the service more competitive to justify people buying into it. Because, you know, we had a couple people in the community ask us to do a review of it, and I bought into the second tier, not the max tier, and I really don't think that I think the value is there enough if you're looking to work for it, or if PlayStation is like your only platform. You can definitely like, I think you can eke value out of it, especially if you're like somebody who likes to play a lot of games, doesn't necessarily care about playing games when they're brand new, that kind of thing. Like, I think there is a gamer it's a good value for, but I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I wouldn't evangelize it the way I'm like, if you have an Xbox and you don't have Game Pass, like, you're a fool, you know?
Well, yeah, because you've got the day one. I don't have to buy any games. It's just like, I get what Microsoft releases.
It's also just it's a better platform too, though, because like the tier system is bullshit, right? Like
so confusing. Like, I don't think anyone understands what's on what tier.
No, and it's because a lot of it is like duplicitous, right? Because they have the whole thing where it's like, oh, the highest tier is like for retro games. Like, that's like, if you want to play retro games, that's, you know, so, and like that sounds like a thing where you're like, oh, okay, like if I want to play, you know, these old games or whatever, that's the way to do it. But like they have games there that are like the like PS4 re-release of a game, right? And it's like, why is that on this tier? That should be on the PlayStation 4 tier that I'm at, like the base streaming package tier. Why are these games that are games you know I clearly want put on this highest tier because of a technicality, right? It's like, that feels bad. And it's weird because there are games that you think would be on that tier that aren't, and some that shouldn't be that are, and it's all backward. And like, it's not easy to understand. It doesn't have the very simple value prop that Xbox has been able to achieve, right? Where it's like, Game Pass is, you know, it's $10 a month or 15 for Ultimate or whatever it is, and if you are on the fence about it, you can regularly get it for like $1 and get in there and try it out, right? And like, then you're on the hook. And with this, it's like, do you want to do this? And then if you decide you want to upgrade, we're only going to upgrade you for the rest of the year. So like, you're actually paying more for the service, even though you're not really getting the full value. And like, it's just like, it's it's messaged really poorly, and it's not a good enough service for you to deal with the bullshit and the confusion. Whereas Xbox has made Game Pass such a simple thing, and the fact that like when you go on your Xbox and you're like, go to my games, and it's like, well, do you want to look at your full library? And it just puts them all there. It's so easy to navigate.
Yeah, they've even revamped that recently because it used to be split with Game Pass and EA Play. I mean, that's another thing you get with Game Pass is like you get EA Play. I know you get like Ubisoft Plus on the top tier on PlayStation right. Plus, but it's just like, I don't know. I think maybe 2 tiers is the way to go. You have one that's just online and you have one that's online with everything. And you make that the price point, but maybe Sony couldn't make that work. But I can't see that those retro games are worth paying the extra for.
No, and I think that if you included those in the base thing, right, and you made the whole thing either a little bit more expensive or you just own that you're going to take the hit on it a little bit and try to build a market around it, like...
I mean, they own most of those games. It's not like
right.
they're paying anyone else for them. It's like, oh, you want to play Jak and Daxter, the remake? Well, you got to upgrade to the top tier for that.
Yeah, it's like why? Like why? Like, you know, that's ridiculous. I should just be able to play the Sony games. Like, at the very least, this thing should be a place where I can go play old first-party PlayStation games, right? And it's not even that.
Yeah, they should have their whole back catalog on there and tap into it. I mean, that's why Xbox are buying up all of these big publishers, is because they want to have those games on Game Pass. It just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's like Sony already has a stable. They just don't leverage it well. You know? Yeah, I don't know. Like if PlayStation's solution, right? If PlayStation Plus was like diet Game Pass plus Nintendo Switch Online, that would be a lot more compelling. And I just
think the branding is just not as strong. Like Game Pass, you know what you're getting. I'm getting access to all these games. PlayStation Plus, we've known what it is for like 15 years at this point, or however long it's been. Like it's been a while. I think it came in at the PS3 generation, so it's just like we know what PlayStation Plus was. Yeah. You've changed the goalpost now, and I don't think people understand it. Whereas I think if you'd have come up with a new service, a rebrand, kept PlayStation Plus as what it was. This is how you access the online services. You gain access to Plus features like the cloud saves, which I still think should be part of the base package. Like, it should be free. You should not be charging people to back up their saves. And then you have a tier above that, which is like a game streaming service where you brand it in a different way. And don't brand them as like deluxe.
That's
premium.
Like what they tried with PlayStation Now, though, too, and like that didn't quite work either. And granted, that
but that was a rebrand shift as well, because it was originally PlayStation Now is I stream and I stream only, and then they added in the ability to download stuff, but they never got that messaging across. No one knew that. No one really understood that anymore. And I think you could have the 2 tiers. But one's PlayStation Plus and the other one is PlayStation something else, PlayStation Premium, if you want to call it something else. Like, I think you can just do away with the Plus moniker. PlayStation Plus Essentials, PlayStation Plus Deluxe, PlayStation Plus Premium. It's no one understands what's on each tier. Like, oh, I'm on the middle tier. I'm on the top tier with the retro games. Like, that's what people are saying. They're not getting your branding right. Whereas Game Pass, we know, is Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate. And I know with Ultimate, I get access to EA Play, and I also get access to the game streaming. Like, I can tell you that. I can't tell you what PlayStation has.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, as someone who owns it, I can't even totally explain it. Like, I can, but like, I'd probably miss some details or get some things wrong, and I have to look it up. Whereas like Game Pass, I can very clearly, if somebody's like, should I get Game Pass? It's like, yes, here's why.
Yeah.
Definitely. Whereas like if someone was like, I got a PlayStation, should I get the PlayStation Plus? Like, what tier should I get? I'd be like, well,
maybe have a look, see what's on there first.
Yeah, what's your taste? How often do you buy new games? Like that. Like, there's so many questions I have to ask before I'm like, yes, you should get it. Whereas Game Pass is such a clear, like, literally every fucking person that plays video games should have Game Pass. Period.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a really good deal.
But I'm a PlayStation shill. Anyway, there are a couple more details that we'll go through real quickly, and then we'll move on here. As part of these financial reports, Sony also announced that they've officially crossed 25 million PlayStation 5 consoles shipped worldwide. Important to point out, shipped does not mean sold. That means that they've been shipped to retailers. But obviously, as we know, the PlayStation 5 is still very hard to come by. So if not 25...
Very impressive.
Sorry?
It's still a very impressive number. And
Yeah.
I can imagine that Xbox is nowhere near that. But we've also got the rumor there's a new console coming next year, right? The one with the detachable disc drive that Tom Henderson's been reporting about.
Correct.
And I feel like when that comes, it simplifies things. There's one system you've got to ship rather than two SKUs, and then you buy the attach-on drive if you want to. Is what it should have been all along. And I feel like that's really going to simplify things and probably amplify the sales as well.
Agreed.
Especially if it's on like if it's a smaller package, it's like easier to ship, it's easier to produce. They've already had the die shrink with the chip. Everything's kind of pointing in the direction that they're going to sell like hotcakes. They already are, and they're just going to keep selling.
Yeah, and it looks like they're selling about 1 million a month right now. They moved 3 million in the last 3 months, which is the same amount that they were moving this time last year. So steady production, steady demand, right? To your point, I think as soon as they're able to increase production, the sales will go through the roof, you know?
Yeah, and they've like increased the price around the world, and yet they're still selling. So,
yeah, that's a good point. It's
clearly it's not damaged.
They've maintained the same profitability even though they increased the price because the demand is so high.
Yeah,
which is crazy. But
maddening to the consumer and to me. Like it's insane to me that they're cheaper for them to make now because they've had a die shrink and the boards are smaller and there's less copper in there, and yet they put the price up everywhere except the USA.
And obviously, I'm not defending that decision. You want to go listen to the week they announced it. I talked shit about them, and I said they should take that cost on the chin. I still feel that way. However, it's not necessarily cheaper for them to produce when you think about the fact that parts cost more, right? There's been a lot of inflation in the last year, and like you can feel that at everywhere, right? Like going grocery shopping is costing me 25% more than it used to, right? Getting a bite at a fast food restaurant, right? Which is something that was always, the whole point of it is that it's cheap, right? Is not cheap anymore.
The McDonald's 99p saver menu's gone.
No longer exists. Yeah. Gone to inflation. So when you think about the fact that is a reality in pretty much every industry, I wouldn't be surprised if the costs have gone up.
I think the costs have probably gone up, but they probably could have taken the £20 hit. I don't think they needed to
I'm not defending that. Right. They could have taken the hit. Yeah. But what I would imagine is these changes are to make it cheaper to produce so that they're not affected by inflation. They're not going to bring the price
down, though. Yeah, they're not going to bring the price back down, though. It's up and it's there forever. And I know that Phil Spencer spoke this week with Joanna Stern at the Wall Street Journal, and he had a lot to talk about with prices potentially going up. I think he said they're going to have to adjust pricing. I don't think that's going to be on consoles, personally. I think that is firmly Game Pass, and maybe software sales going up to $70. But I don't think the price of consoles are going to increase while they're in the losing position. I think having the cheap console, it looks good.
I think everybody's going to increase the price of their games to $70 sooner than later.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to Microsoft first-party titles, who gives a shit anyway? Because you're playing them on Game Pass.
Right. I hope the price of Game Pass doesn't go up too much.
I could see it going up to $20 a month.
That would still be a good deal, but
yeah,
I'm at the point right now where when I bought as much as I literally could, however many years ago, and like grandfathered myself in. That's finally about to run out in January.
Yeah, mine's ran out this month, so I've got to decide, do I want to keep Game Pass? Yes, I think I do. But I've cancelled a bunch of other subscriptions for the same reasons that we spoke about, right? It's like everything's gone up in price. This month, my YouTube Premium and my Apple Music both went up in price, and I made the decision. I just got rid of Apple Music, so I'm just listening to music on YouTube Music now. It's like, someone's got to give at some point, and I think that is probably part of the reason that Sony hasn't even considered is like people are just canceling subscription services. Is not unique just to them when it comes to PlayStation Plus, people are canceling subscription
And
services
that's
if
the
they're not using
thing,
them.
right? Is to that point, I made the point earlier. I think it is a decent value, but like, so what, right? Like, who needs a decent value? You know, like I don't have money to throw around like
Well,
that right now.
if you don't have much money and you've got the console already, just play a free-to-play game. Because you don't need PlayStation Plus to play those anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You just play a free-to-play game online, play Fortnite with your friends, jump on a call on Discord. Away you
Or
go.
again,
Job done.
if you're a frugal gamer and you're the type of person, like, even if you don't play multiplayer, if you only want to play single player games, right? But you don't,
You can pick up games used, yeah.
yeah, but you don't, yeah, exactly, right? Like, we talk about that gamer all the time, right? Like, my, like the best man at my wedding, right, is that type of gamer, right? He's a dad, he loves video games, he only plays single player games, and like, he plays video games now whenever he gets a chance, which, because he has like a 1-year-old son, is never, right? So it's like, he's happy to be like, oh yeah, I'm still playing Elden Ring again, right? Or I'm gonna replay Persona 5, because I like those games and I'm happy to play them again. Or like, or oh yeah, I'll buy I'll play Spider-Man 2 years later or whatever, shit like that, and it's like, yeah, like, for that kind of person, like, they don't, the game's new to them, and it's like, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's a really good way to play games. Is don't get sucked up in the zeitgeist at the moment, and feel that FOMO. Just wait till it goes on sale.
Unless you do what we
can.
do, I don't know why you, like,
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. I probably would do that anyway because I just like playing games like that.
Well, if you're excited about a game, yeah, but when it's a game you're not sure on, like I often will wait. If I'm not sure about this one, then I will wait.
I think the thing is, right, is like, we've talked about this. There's a hierarchy of entertainment. And as somebody who video games is my favorite way to spend leisure time, right? Like, just free time, like consuming art. That's why I consume games the way that I do, right? And I have lots of friends that games are the second or third or fourth or fifth thing on their list. And like, they're the ones telling me, oh, have you watched Abbott Elementary yet? You got to watch that because that's the hot new show. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then I watch it by the time season 1's over and I can watch the whole thing, right? Or whatever, because like, I'm not like that with movies or whatever, right? Like, that's, and I'm that guy for games where I'm like, oh, you got to play this game. You got to play this game in 2 years when it comes to Switch, or whatever. So, yeah, I think the other thing that is the bigger concern is that game sales were down year on year for the 3-month period ending in September. So there were 62.5 million PS4 and PS5 games sold, which is down 13.9 million from last year, which includes 6.7 million first-party games, which is down 900K from last year. So that, though, I think, again, like, well, let's see what that number looks like after God of War.
Well, yeah, but it'll be year on year, won't it? So it'll be versus last year, but we'll see, because they may not have any other games next year. I don't think we've got any announcements on release dates for games next year yet. So it could be that this is their game for the next fiscal year, and we have nothing else until next November. We'll have to wait and see what they've got in store. But I think this is one of the reasons, and I think it's been on the decline for a while, mainly due to just other things competing for their attention. But is it one of the reasons why they're getting into PC games? They don't want to be restricted to just selling their games to PlayStation gamers. They want to sell them to anyone. And if you can buy them on PC, we've seen how much all that did for God of War sales.
Right.
It did so well on PC. It made sense to just bring it over.
And not to mention, there is, again, the fact that I think a lot less gamers are probably buying games day and date brand new. Because inflation right now is hurting their wallet.
Or £70 price, yeah. £70 is so much money. Yeah, I could buy like a week's worth of food for that price, right?
Well, not anymore, but
probably not, yeah. But like, it's still such a shock to the system, especially when everything else is squeezing you, and so you are gonna wait. If something's gonna give, if it's like, well, do I buy this game or do I eat this week? Well, you're gonna eat, aren't you? You're not gonna buy the £70 game.
That's correct. I hope so. Anyway, please eat. All right, so moving along to our last talking point here, PlayStation VR2 has had its price and release date revealed, And I think this is going to be a continuing trend, right? As we talk about that value and that sticker shock, because I think a lot of people were surprised to see that PSVR2 will be retailing for $550 at least American, right? Similarly analogous across other regions where it's about $50 more than the console. It's going to be released on February 22nd of next year. According to the PlayStation blog, that bundle will include the PSVR2 headset, the PSVR2 Sense controllers, and a set of stereo headphones. There will also be a bundle available that has Horizon Call of the Mountain that's going to retail for $600 American, and it'll include everything from the standard edition plus a code for the game. Alongside that, on the 22nd, there's also going to be a PlayStation VR2 Sense controller charging station, which will allow people to basically just click their controllers into a charger and charge them independently of the PlayStation console so that you're not, cluttering up your USB ports.
Where is their official, docking station for the DualSense controller? I'd love that, a little cradle to rest on.
Isn't there one? I'm
Maybe.
pretty sure one exists. I think it's just popular and often sold out.
Oh, well, I've not seen one, but yeah, fair enough.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that does exist. So if you are in the US, the UK, France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, or Luxembourg, you will only be able to pre-order it through PlayStation's online store. Those pre-orders are going to be available on the 15th, but you can register today to get your information set up, and then when you get in line, you'll all be set up and everything. So if you are interested,
wouldn't it be great if I could sign in, pay $5, and then they just message me when it's ready? That amazing system, and that'd be good. Maybe they should do that.
Honestly, not a bad idea. So again, if you are looking to get one on the 15th, I would go pre-register now. Alongside that news, we did get the announcement of the 11 games that are going to be available at launch. That is the Dark Pictures Anthology Switchback VR, Crossfire Sierra Squad, The Light Brigade, Cities VR Enhanced Edition, Cosmonious High, Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue, Jurassic World Aftermath Collection, Pistol Whip VR, Zenith the Last City, After the Fall, and
great.
Tentacular.
Pistol Whip is a really fucking good game.
Yeah?
That's a good get. Yeah,
Cool.
I play that all the time on my Quest.
So that is not the full launch lineup. Sony did said that they are expecting there to be more than 20 titles available on launch day. So there are obviously going to be, a few more things up their sleeve. But
I mean, if Beat Saber's not there on launch day, then they are. I don't know what's going on.
I would be surprised if it isn't.
Well, I don't know, because that's owned by Facebook. Sorry.
Oh,
Meta.
shit. I forgot about that. You're right. Damn. Yeah, maybe not.
Now you're not having that anymore. That's ours. Come play that on Quest.
That sucks. Media consolidation,
like the one
huh?
game to play. That's that is the one that people want VR for.
That sucks. Well, anyway, let's now that we've gotten that all out on the table, let's rewind. What's your read on this, Steve?
I think I don't understand why people are surprised at the price, because I swear I've been saying this since they announced the specs, that it's going to cost as much as the PlayStation 5, if not more than the PlayStation 5. And as they released more and more information, it became clearer and clearer and clearer that this was going to cost a very, very large amount of money.
I'm glad you said that, Steve, because I'm going to just sideline us right here for a second to get into our predictions, because you said PSVR2 releasing this year, $499, and it will work on PCs. Wrong and wrong.
Yeah, it was $50 off, but I think for the price, I actually think it's a good deal. I think it's good tech. I just don't understand who this is for. But when you zoom out and look at the technology that's in it, it's dual 120 hertz 4K OLED panels, eye tracking, inside-out tracking, foveated rendering. You've got the Sense controllers. Consider that the PlayStation, the original PlayStation VR, launched for $399, which was more than a PS4 cost back then. You had no controllers bundled with it. You had to buy the Move setup separately, which I think was another $100 for the two Move controllers and the camera if you wanted that, which brings it up to 500. You're getting close to the price of a VR2, and it's just like that was nowhere near the level of tech that's in this thing. And I don't understand why people are so shocked at the price. I think it's just because it costs more than the PS5. So what? This is just a thing I put on my head and it costs more than the PS5. Oh, this is a screen that goes on my head. No, there's a lot of shit that goes into these things. And it's impressive technology. I just don't know who this is for. The original PSVR was like a gateway, right? It was for those people who wanted to try VR. It was mainstream. I've already got a PS4. I want to play VR games. I don't want to build a PC. Don't want to go down that route. I'll play VR on my PS4. We don't need that now. Mainstream VR is I've got an integrated headset. It's a Meta Quest 2 or a Pico VR from the people that make TikTok. It's just like I can put one of those on my face and play my favorite games. I want to play Beat Saber. I'm going to open that. I want to play a lot of these games that are here, like Cosmonius High, Pistol Whip. We've already seen Demio. A lot of those are Quest games. They're just being ported over. So, and we've already just had some PlayStation games go the other way. The Iron Man games just come to the Quest. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't really understand why you would get this over a Quest if you're just wanting an intro into VR.
So,
and if you're really big into VR, I think you're already playing on a PC. And for the price, $600 to play the Horizon game, I just don't see why you would pay it. I wouldn't.
So I think where I don't quite agree, and it's not necessarily to say that I disagree with what you're saying, because I think it's more like, I guess, to play devil's advocate. If you look at the hands-on reviews, right, of what people's experience with PSVR2 has been in the pre-release stuff, it definitely seems like it is a step up from what the Meta Quest
Most definitely
offers.
It's a step up from anything that's out there. It's a step up from the Valve Index, which the base price is £690.
Right. So then my argument is I think it's for the exact same market that the PS4 version of PlayStation VR appealed to, right? Where like, yeah, like I want a more high-end VR experience than what I'm capable of getting from a dedicated device. With the advent of there being exclusive stuff published by Sony, which you know there will also be, that's two things in its favor, but it's still a much cheaper point of entry for that quote-unquote high-end VR experience than a gaming PC. Because if you're not a PC gamer, right, assuming you already have a gaming PC, fair enough, then your point stands, and maybe you go with, you know, Valve's successor to the Index or one of those other high-end headsets where you can, right, where you can get that high-end gaming-centric experience on a PC. Great. But there are a lot of gamers that are interested in VR that don't play on PC and don't want to play on PC and don't want to build $1,000+ gaming PC just so that they can have a VR headset as well. That's like going to be, you know, easily a $1,000+ type investment to get into that setup and have it be optimized the way you want it to be. Whereas with,
I think it's no difference in price. I think you could build a comparable VR setup with, say, a Quest 2 with the cable link or a Valve Index, along with like a mid-range gaming PC with like an NVIDIA 1660 Super or something in there, for around about a grand 1,200. When you add the price of the PS5 in there, you're getting close.
But it's not though, right? Because you're saying that's included with the cost of the headset? You think you can do that for $1,000?
I think you can do the cost of the headset and the cost of a PS5. I think you can make a comparable PC VR setup for around about £1,200.
Okay, even if that's true, there's also the work of doing it.
Yes, there is the work of doing it. But I just don't see that if the work of doing it is a big thing to you, that you give a shit that this is better than the Quest 2, when all you're going to play is Quest port games at the moment, because
So
that's what the launch lineup is stacked full of, with one exclusive. And you can't backwards play any of the PSVR games. They've got to be upgraded. Just like they confirmed Pistol Whip VR is getting a free upgrade to Pistol Whip VR2.
I think that you're right that there are a lot of people that is true for, but I think that there are a lot of people that is not true for as well. And when you're talking about a niche market like VR, like the original PSVR, I believe was what, like 5 million units sold. That's not a lot.
It was the best-selling VR headset until the Quest 2.
Right. So,
which is like a big monumental thing to do, especially for a device that was so expensive, didn't come with controllers, didn't really have proper tracking. Like, it was a rudimental system when you look at modern VR headsets.
And it was extremely successful. And I think that this can find the exact same level of success. And I think that the things that are holding it back will not be detriments to the people that actually care about VR.
I think the big thing that people care about VR is the applications. And there are so many games and applications that VR people care about that are completely missing. VR chat is the number one omission here. It's on PC VR, it's on the Quest, it's on the Pico. Why is it not on the PlayStation? Like, that needs to come to PSVR if they're serious about VR. And they also need to make sure that the game is set. Why can't they?
Because there's a ton of illegal usage of like IP in that game.
I mean, Meta doesn't give a shit. They deal with it. They're a bigger company than Sony.
I don't think it's the same. You know, like, you're right, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
It's tough, isn't it? It is really tough.
I think they're going to be held to a different standard, right? Like, if Xbox wanted to come after PlayStation because it's like VR chat's on PlayStation VR2 and like there's all this illegal Xbox content on there, like, I don't know. Like, maybe that's ridiculous,
you
but
could be right.
I'm sure that's part of their mentality of why they don't want it there.
Yeah, I mean, they need
not
something,
to mention
though.
that like
social
are more
VR
likely to
missing,
use
right?
that, right? And like, I don't know. There's like, I think.
Well, yeah, but that's parental controls that they could do. They can make it an 18+ thing. I mean, there's Rec Room, which is the kid-centric version of VR chat.
I think it courts controversy that they're not interested in. Is I think the thing.
Yeah, but I think social VR is huge, and it's a big thing that VR enthusiasts want. Yeah. And they need something. They need a social VR solution. Meta's building out their crappy version with Horizon.
Bring back PlayStation Home.
PlayStation Home would be great. Did you see the video? Someone's like got it working again. Like,
yeah, dude. I watched. There were 2 documentaries that came out about it in like 2020 of like about that project and everything, and I was like, this is crazy and awesome.
It's so cool though, yeah. But that was like the metaverse before the metaverse existed, and it's like they should bring that back for VR. It would make so much sense.
Bring back Second Life.
I don't know. Yeah, I think again, it's the problem. It's like the text there. It's really, really great, but they're missing games to launch with like 20 games, when most of them are like ports or upgrades on games you already had, and there's only one real big standout title, which the previews of were just like, yeah, it was okay, but it is pretty much an on rails game, and you don't really have much to do. It's like you go to these areas, you'll climb for a little bit, you'll get to an area, and it's like you shoot for a little bit, but the shooting's not really all that accurate. You're just like shooting, and it's automatically targeting. Like, versus something like Half-Life Alyx, which completely changed the game. It was really immersive. If they get something like Half-Life Alyx over, or they've developed something like Half-Life Alyx themselves, then I think that's when PSVR 2 can be the real big like draw in for enthusiasts. Yeah. And if they ever add PC support for PSVR 2, then it becomes like an absolutely phenomenal deal that I think a ton of Valve Index people would shift over to.
It'll be interesting to see. I think ultimately you're right, though, that this price is not bad at all. And I think if they play their cards right, they can probably replicate the success they found on the original device, because this is a lot better.
It's a niche product though. 5 million, you said, like compared to 105 million PS4s that they sold. Like, it's a very, very small percentage of people
And I think
are
that's the thing,
interested.
though. They look at it that way, right? Like if you go back to interviews from Sony executives, like around the time that they were putting out the original headset, they said that they looked at it as the same way that when they launched the original PlayStation, of like, we're entering a market and we're here to stay and we're going to be one of the names in virtual reality. And that's a thing that they have planted their flag on, and it is a differentiator between them and their competition. So I'm sure that they're happy. Like, hey, it's a niche product, but we were number one. That means something, you know? So and I think a lot of people that owned PSVR1 will show up for PSVR2. And hopefully, more than that. Because, I mean, VR is not really my thing, but I definitely am excited by it as like a new way to play. And, I don't think it'll ever replace traditional gaming, but
but I don't think it needs to replace it. It can be an addition. It can be another experience you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. In the same way that, I used to have a light gun and I would play games, but it didn't replace normal shooters for me. It was just something fun to do.
It's a different way. Just a different option. And I want to see us get to the point where there are like major. Okay. You remember how when Xbox created the Xbox Live Marketplace and the birth of indie games, and there was that kind of period before indie games kind of broke into the mainstream, where there was like that mentality of like, oh, it's really good for a downloadable game, or oh, it's really good for an indie game, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually it just became like, this is a game of the year contender. I want VR to turn that corner, because that's when I'm going to get interested in it again. And until it hits that point, I think it's a niche enthusiast type thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to see there be a game, and I think for a lot of people, Half-Life Alyx was probably that game. But I want there to be...
It was. It's so difficult to get into, right? Because it's a very expensive point of entry, like you said. But I think this is an expensive point of entry, but a lot of people already have a PS5.
Right.
So if you already have a gaming PC, then Half-Life Alyx wasn't that expensive, because you could just you can even plug like an old Oculus or a Quest in. You can plug anything in, right, to play that. And you can use the Oculus Link.
And that's a good point too, to push back on your argument about the cost argument, right? Where it's like there are a lot of people for which buying a PS5 is a foregone conclusion, right? Like I already own a PS5. So if I decided I wanted to get into VR right now, this would be the cheapest way for me to get a high-end rig going.
Yeah, a high-end rig to play one high-end game and then some ports of Quest games.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Sure. But how long is that a problem?
I don't know. I really don't know, because at the moment Sony's not really putting games out at a very fast pace. Depends what they've got up their sleeves for VR. We're seeing 1, maybe 2 games a year at the moment out of their first-party studios.
Yeah, but also think about that, right? Like this is how Sony does things. They go through cycles, right? And like there's that whole rumor that they had a whole big PlayStation presentation that they scrapped because they didn't want to give fuel to Microsoft.
I don't believe that at this point.
Whether or not you believe that, whatever, there's certainly the content for that, right? We know that every one of their major first-party studios are working on new games, and we only know about 2 of them, right?
Yeah, I think, well, we know a few coming from Insomniac. There's like 2 from them alone.
Spider-Man and Wolverine we know about, right? But aside from that, like we don't know what Naughty Dog's next big project is. We don't know what we know
they're working on that multiplayer like Last of Us game,
sure,
right?
But that's one of their teams.
Services game.
The other team's working on a new game, and that's probably a new IP or whatever, right? Who knows? And then not to mention,
I hope it's a new IP.
I hope so. And it's like we know that like Ghost of Tsushima 2 is in development, but we don't know when that's coming. Like things like that. Like there's a lot of cards for them to play, and we know that they have studios that are focusing on VR. So like, I think even if it's a soft launch, it's a long play. So I don't know that that'll matter in the long term, right? Like it might be weak out the gate, but I think it'll get where it needs to go probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It does have a lot more competition. So.
A ton more competition, and I really think mainstream VR is standalone units. I don't think people that are just like dabbling with VR want to play with a cable plugged into a console or a PC.
Yeah.
And I really think enthusiasts are already playing VR on a PC. I really believe that this isn't going to take off in the same way that PSVR 1 did,
Yeah.
because it's got competition. The Quest didn't exist back then. It didn't you didn't have a cheap entry point. They flooded the
Yeah.
market
You did
with
have
like headsets for $299, and then they put the price up
you
once
did have
everyone
like
already had it.
Oculus though, and you had the
But Oculus
Vive and
required the Oculus and the Vive required a PC. The Quest and the Quest 2 didn't. It was like, oh, I
yeah.
put this on and I can play Beat Saber, and it's all here. Like I don't need anything else. This is awesome. You've now got the same from Pico, which is like a Chinese competitor to Meta. They're owned by the TikTok parent company, and they're getting big into VR. And they seem to. And then you've got the Quest 3 coming next year. Who knows what that looks like?
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because it's like I think I'd argue that those are kind of targeting different types of users, but like I don't know. Like it's
Yeah, but it's like you look at the top PlayStation VR games, it's always Beat Saber,
Mhm.
always. And like if that's what people are playing, why would they spend $600 on this? You'd go and you'd play it on the Quest.
But I think it is if they have software that's compelling that the Quest can't do, and that's
Yes,
the question.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if Half-Life Alyx comes to this, then I'll be interested because that's a
Right.
game I really want to play. But I'm also considering building a gaming PC. So do I just take the $549 that I would have invested into VR2 and I invest that into a gaming PC that can play that and more?
Yeah.
And I can go and chill out with my friends in VR chat? Maybe that's the route to go down.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's a big question, but we shall see. And I think you also made the point, right, of like, does it come to PC? And like the answer is probably yes. And
I think that's how you if this is a profitable product that they're selling at a profit rather than at a loss, like they're probably selling the PS5 at. I don't know if they're making a profit on that. Then bringing it to PC makes a lot of sense because you've undercut Valve by a lot for a much higher quality product.
all right, yeah, I mean I think you're right. So I will spare you going through our predictions right now because we're coming up on the end of the year, so I'll save that for our check-in and the.
Okay, so but you can gloat a little bit because I'm gonna lose. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out what what's the prize because obviously
You were gonna do like a trophy thing. You
Oh
did
right,
one.
the trophy.
Made. Yeah.
We got to get a trophy made. That's the thing. Okay.
Well, yeah, you've got to get the trophy made because it's got to go to the US now because it's pretty clear that I've lost. So
Yeah, if you win, it's going to be expensive to mail that sucker back and forth. But
just get like a small one, not like a really big one.
I like that though. I like the idea of sending it back and forth across the ocean. Very prestigious award. It's well traveled, right?
It's got to be engraved with who won as well.
Every year with like the Stanley Cup. I love it. Yeah, let's do it. That'll have to be pretty big though, I think. Then if we want to keep engraving it, but
Yeah, you got to engraved, or you do it on the base plate.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, Steve. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get one that's big enough to engrave, right? The FlipScreen, the company will pay for the original trophy, but then I think the loser has to pay for the engraving.
That's fine. Yeah,
I like that.
I think that's fair.
Then there's skin in the game, right? And it's like nobody can be like, "Oh, I'll play this game," and then be like, "Nah, what are you gonna do? Make me?"
Yeah, that doesn't work, especially when we're doing like game club, sort of like one of the world's longest games. It just
it just didn't make sense. But that you can't. It's money. You can't. You got money.
Yeah,
You can spend
I
it.
can get out of it. Yeah, I can give you 20 quid to go get it engraved. Yeah,
Right.
it's fine.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so we'll find that. I'm gonna have to find one on Etsy or something. If anybody makes trophies, let me know. If you got a friend out there that makes trophies,
Yeah, we want one that looks like the Dundee from The Office. That's what we need.
Or I was thinking we get one that looks like the platinum trophy, the PlayStation. When you get the platinum.
Yeah, that works.
Like a
yeah.
nice
I
chalice.
wouldn't mind one. If we get a custom one, I wouldn't mind like a little TV and then on the plaque you like engrave.
How much we trying to spend on this thing is the question.
Thousands. Thousands.
All right.
It's very prestigious, as we've said.
And then it gets lost in the mail. We
It's
never.
not going to get lost. No. No, like
Pay for
everything that
tracking.
went to our PO box. Yeah.
The loser has to pay for the tracking. All right, cool. Sounds good. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up, I think, for today's show. Thank you guys for joining us on this week's episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. Remember, if you want to write in, if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, if you want to find our content all over the web, flipscreen.games. That's the way to do it. That's the way to find us. Come and join the community, be a part of what we're doing, however you choose to. We appreciate you tuning in to this week's show. And, of course, we'll be back next week with, I think, we'll record this late enough in the week that we can get some God of War impressions in there. But we also are going to have a very special episode, and maybe it should be the week after the reveal of God of War Ragnarok, where we're going to be talking a little bit about accessibility with a very special guest. So look forward to that one as well. So get your questions in, get your comments in, all that good stuff. I'd love to get some user reactions, considering Steve will not have played God of War Ragnarok. So I'm depending on you people to write in. But that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Okay. Thank you guys for joining us. We love you. Of course, for the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We've been the FlipScreen Games podcast, and we will see ya next week.